and the platform is yours.
Okay, started. I wanted to introduce myself and what I've been doing in my career and a little bit about my life. So I was born here in the United States, in Chicago, and then at a young age moved to Massachusetts. If you've heard of Boston, spent about 25 years of my life there. Another handful of months pre-pandemic in San Francisco, but that ended early, so I moved back with my parents to Boston. And then I found myself here in New York about 5 months ago. And so, yeah, here I am. I have most of my family actually in Bahrain, but before that, my family lived actually in current-day Pakistan, in Sindh. So, we speak Sindhi at home. I don't know if any of you speak Sindhi, but maybe we can exchange a few words at the end of this and we can speak in Sindhi. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you all about learning how to learn. And this is a topic that I had gotten interested in because of a friend of mine who gave a talk on this subject, actually. And when both Zed and I were talking about, what might be relevant for, you all and what you all are interested in learning about, I thought it might be interesting to step back and talk about this subject of how can you learn in the best way possible. Professionally, I went to school and I went to Boston University in their College of Engineering. I studied biomedical engineering and I started working and got very interested in the field of medical devices. So these are devices that hospitals, clinicians, doctors would be using to treat patients or that patients would have in their own home to try and improve their health. So I worked at a number of companies like GE Healthcare, as well as partnering with hospitals like Mass General Brigham, which is a leading hospital in the US and in the world, and then startups like a company named DocBox. So, a couple of the things that I was building in the medical device field, think of it like surgical GPS, GPS for surgeons. How can they navigate your body with millimeter precision so that they are operating exactly in the correct areas to treat your condition? And this was used in cranial, ear, nose, and throat, as well as spinal surgeries, very sensitive areas of the body. So if you are cutting tissue or anything, nerves, you may cause permanent damage if you are just a few millimeters off. And so our technology helped surgeons visualize exactly where they were inside of your body in real time. And they could see an image of where their tool was being inserted, so that they could make those precise cuts and those precise, surgical procedures needed to do, proper surgeries. And then also that meant that it was minimally invasive. They could go in with these tiny microscopic holes into your body rather than cutting you open and doing sort of open heart surgery is probably what you're most familiar with. Open heart surgery is really hard to recover from because you're making a huge incision across a patient's chest to get access to their heart. But instead, if you're able to go through the leg and up and around, that type of surgery with these sort of miniature access points, much faster recovery times. So a lot of incentives for doing that type of work. So really was enjoying what I was doing in medical devices, but the one thing that was missing was we were not actually talking to these surgeons. We weren't going to the operating room. We were not going and talking to the clinicians there. We weren't talking to patients, forget that. And that seemed really wrong to me. Why are we not doing any of this work? Because our team has so many great ideas. Our mechanical engineers were thinking about how can we manufacture better tools for surgeons to use, because we think that, the way that they're holding them is not that, ergonomic. It's not, comfortable to hold it. So maybe we can design a different tool. But the way to build these things is, you need to get validation. You need to go talk to these surgeons to confirm, is my idea even correct? Before you go spend the months or years going to build this and proving out that there's a market for this. And so I looked at that and I said, this is great. I'm working on great technology, great technical challenges, but I really want to work with the people that I'm building products and services for. And so that's when I went to the next stage of my journey in product design. And I ended up at a company now called Publicis Sapient. They're a 100,000 plus person company that started as an ad agency, Publicis, and then Sapient, a technology consultancy, sort of got brought in by Publicis to help transform their business and do what's called digital business transformation. So they work with the largest companies in the world to try and modernize their business. So I work with a number of customers like Dunkin' Donuts, if you're familiar with them. Maybe they're in Pakistan, I'm not sure. But, big coffee chain, donut chain. From my corner of the office, I was operating all of their digital menu boards up until about 1,000 stores in the US. And then we had other customers like Ram Trucks, and we had all of the Chrysler accounts. And so if you visited any of their websites, I worked on them in the early 2010s. Ram Trucks, Ram Commercial, all of those websites, huge websites with millions of customers coming daily to try and figure out what trucks do they sell, what's right for me. And we were building experiences on those websites and a number of other financial and energy clients. From there, I moved on to a company named Lear, where I was bringing together all of my design experience that I had gained at working at Sapient Nitro was the name at the time, and all of my healthcare background. And we were actually building software for doctors, for clinicians, for nurses, for patients, to help them manage their care in a better way. So if you're familiar with this, electronic medical records, now in the US and other parts of the world, they're going away from paper records, which is pretty common still in India and Pakistan, I know, but now starting to move into the digital world and starting to document what is going on with the patient. If you get a blood draw, putting all of your lab results online so that patients can access that, so other doctors can access that, and no matter where you get care, every clinician will be able to have the same information about you, so you're not repeating tests and doing all the inefficient things that normally happen in healthcare. From there, I started a company, Slides Up, that was in the event technology space. We were helping conference organizers of 1,000+ person events. And we bootstrapped that company, didn't raise any money, just started with our customers and built off of customer growth for about 7 years. And as the pandemic hit, I looked for what I could do next and where I could make my next big impact. So that's when I went to, oops, sorry, this is not letting me advance my slides. Let me just come over here instead and drive here. So that's where I came to a company called Mercury. And Mercury is a digital bank. So I'm sure, Zaid, when you started your company, you had to go walk into a bank branch and get a bunch of your partners, if you had any, with all of your documents, all of the paperwork, and you're sitting there for a couple of hours filling out paperwork. And then maybe you heard back in a week or two if you got your account opened, and then you sort of had to do a lot of things at the bank branch. And I'm sure this is pretty common in Pakistan. I know my relatives in India and in Bahrain are facing this challenge every day. To get anything done, you have to literally travel 1 hour, go to the bank branch, sit with one of the representatives, and then you get your work done maybe after 2-3 visits. Well, Mercury, the founders of Mercury, they had started many businesses before, and they said, this is wrong. We don't want to live in a world where this is the way that you have to operate your business, and you spend so much time doing all this useless work. Instead, can we build a bank and a banking experience that will actually modernize everything and be something that started in the 2020s? Modern mobile apps, modern web apps that I can do everything online. Everything is moving online, and you all know that. And so they wanted to build a banking platform that would allow you to do that. So I spent about 1.5 years at Mercury building our onboarding experience, our risk and compliance tooling, as well as tools for our customer success programs. And I was working very closely with our operational teams as well as Mercury customers to try and deliver really great experiences. If you're all on Twitter or any other social media platforms, you might see Mercury. And if you go search for them, at Mercury, or on Instagram at MercuryFly, you'll see that a lot of people, a lot of customers are raving about Mercury's experience and how they're able to do everything so seamlessly. And not a lot of people are in love with their bank. So that's very special, and something that I think Mercury did quite well. And I think they're still going to be doing some incredible work in the coming years. I'm now looking for my next role, and so I'm looking to learn a bunch more things, and that's where today's topic comes to play. And hopefully you all are interested in this as well. One of my friends, Ellen Chiza, wrote a blog article about this, and I can send you all the link as well. Basically, she asked the question, what's the next best thing that I can learn, and how can I learn that most effectively? I'll let that question sink in. I know you all are probably learning lots of things right now for your job, for your hobbies, for your families, for your loved ones. You're learning lots of new things daily, weekly, over the months, and all of that learning compounds over time. And that's how you've gotten to where you are today. Being able to deliver these amazing experiences for your customers, to be able to take care of your family, to take care of your elderly, to take care of your kids, to teach them new things. You've gotten here not because you were born with everything, but because you learned it over time, and then you built up your skills, and you learned on top of the skills that you had. And by learning one thing, you opened some doors, and you opened some more doors, and that's how you've gotten to where you are today. But now you have the option to choose the direction in which you take your future life. And that's a really motivating one for me right now as I look for my next role and what I can do professionally, but also how I can help the world and make an impact and help people. And so I'm very passionate about that. And so I actually revisited Ellen's blog article, which I want to walk you through a little bit today. But before I do that, I'm very curious about you all. What are you all most interested in learning about? I know there are only a handful of people in the room, so maybe if 2 or 3 people want to share what you're most interested in learning about, I would love to sort of interact with you and use your example throughout the rest of the presentation. So if you want to unmute yourself and say something or raise your hand, anything works. Anything interesting you're learning?
So, can you hear me?
Yep. Hi, Sandra.
Yeah. So I wasn't really sure what the topic was about today. I just said, come here and learn to learn. But I was expecting something to learn about maybe marketing. I don't know.
Okay. So what in marketing are you trying to learn these days?
So I'm actually a doctor, so I don't know anything about marketing.
Ah.
So if you can start from scratch, anything related to something that would benefit me, because being in the US, working under any organization is just paying taxes. That's all that you get here. You can't earn money while working with any organization here, even though you're a doctor.
Yeah.
So is there something more beneficial for me to invest or to do in order to save a little bit amount of money that I can save?
Yeah.
Not paying much into the taxes?
Actually,
Okay.
I would like to interrupt a little bit because this topic is all about like the learning, right? So I will have another guest which is totally, based on this kind of stuff like business development, taxes. So yeah, I don't think so. Okay, Kunal, he's the right person to ask about the taxes. What do you
No,
think?
no, I'm more than happy to answer
Okay,
some
go ahead. That's
questions
fine.
on that and use your example, Sidra. I won't get into all, I won't have time to get into the nitty gritty of these things. And also, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not an accountant. But I can tell you what I know. So with that disclaimer, don't hold me to anything. Hopefully this will be an effective way about thinking about how you can learn about these topics going forward. And so, I understand you're a doctor, you know how to learn, you know how to memorize things. Maybe I can open your way of thinking about things. I was working with my friend who is actually, a Pakistani dentist in Texas, and she's interested actually in marketing and product management and how to become that type of person for dental technology companies. So I actually sat down with her for about an hour and a half and walked through like what are all the things that you want to learn so that you can actually apply for these roles or go talk to founders of dental technology companies and use that as your springboard into working at these types of companies rather than just working as a dentist and like you said sort of trapped in that one space. She wanted to explore a lot of different things, so I'm very familiar with that type of scenario, and I have a lot of doctor and dentist friends. Being a biomedical engineer, I lived on a pre-med floor, so I can totally understand where you're coming from. So, Sidra, if you don't mind, I'll use your example throughout this session to go forward. Is that cool? Awesome. All right. So this is coming from the perspective of a company, and I'm just sharing some of the slides from Ellen's blog post, so you'll be able to see this afterwards if you need anything as well. But this guy Josh Ellman, he's a very prolific product person, product manager. He now works at Apple. If you've ever used the App Store on your iPhone, Josh's team is the one responsible for delivering great experiences on the App Store, but he has done many, many other things in his career before. So, why is it beneficial to learn? From the company perspective, or your team perspective, or your individual perspective, he's saying, help your team and company ship the right product for you and your users. And for your case, maybe, Sidra, you're learning to be a physician, took lots of years of training so that you could care for your patients in the best way possible. So his first question is, and Ellen's first question is, where do you struggle right now? What are the big challenges that you're having delivering a great experience for your patients? How can you, again, help your team and company ship the right clinical experience and patient experience? And what are all of the areas, business, technology, design, care coordination that you're struggling right now? So first ask yourself that question. And then say, okay, we know what the experience is right now. We know what the challenges we're facing right now. What will the company need next? If you were to hire someone that has a skill set that you don't have, what would it be? Maybe you don't have that luxury, and we'll get there. What are the major projects that are coming up? What are the trends in the market that you're seeing? Right now you're doing a lot of design work in Canva, but you see Figma, Framer, all these new companies are coming out with great technologies. OpenAI, ChatGPT, they're transforming the way in which we work. And then the last question he's asking, and she's asking, what stage is your company at? And has your team been at that stage before? Maybe you're getting from a place of, okay, I want to work on these new technologies and improve care coordination, or I am looking at bigger clients. I'm looking at, instead of the mom and pop shops, I'm now looking at the chains, the restaurant chains, and we're starting to expand our business. How are we going to help serve them knowing what we know about mom and pop shops? Totally different space, different needs. Well, the great thing is you already have a baseline and you can play to those strengths. You know what your core competency is. And frankly, Sidra, in your case, there are a lot of healthcare technology companies out there. But the number of healthcare technology companies with a physician on their founding team is so small. And you have so many great strengths as a practicing physician to be able to actually help those teams build great experiences. With the case of people working on these, marketing platform or social platforms for mom and pop businesses, your strengths are really understanding what it takes to, on a shoestring budget, deliver great experiences and great marketing and great social media to promote these businesses and help drive their revenue. You have a track record there. So think of the thing that everyone asks for you for help on right now, and think of what it would be really fun to do next. Okay. From there, obviously we all have weaknesses, and there are things that we're all weak at, and we know our weaknesses, or maybe it takes some time for us to search and think on that. Me as an engineer, trained engineer, now working in the software industry, working with hardware, my weaknesses are I've been out of hardware for about 10 years, and I'm not the world's best software engineer. Like, if you ask me to write some code, I would maybe copy things from other people that I see and then modify it, but I'm not very architecturally minded, like, software architecture, just like physical building architecture. I would never be able to plan a building from a blank piece of paper. But if I see another building, maybe I can copy things from there and see what I like and change things to make it do the thing that I want. So don't worry too much about your weaknesses, but just work on evening them out over time. If you're to play to your strengths, I would say spend most of your time on your strengths and the areas that you really care deeply about. And then for maybe 10, 20% of your time, you work on your weaknesses, but I wouldn't focus on that. That's where other people and team members come into play. So know who you would go to ask for help on your weaknesses, and surround yourself with coworkers who can help you. Okay, now I'll let you read these questions, but these are 5 questions that Ellen would have you ask yourself, and I'll give you a minute to read. And as you're reading, just think about maybe 1 or 2 word answers to these for yourself. And maybe I'll call on you, Sidra, in a second. Okay, hopefully that was enough time. Sidra, if you're willing to join me on unmuted again. Yeah, we'll start with the first question. How do you like to learn best? And, are there any techniques that you use?
Yeah, I have to be well rested for anything to be productive coming out of me. So I need to get a good night's sleep before I start learning anything new. So that's one. How do I like to learn? In a fun environment. It can't be boring, because I think the attention span is very limited and I don't have time for boring stuff. And
what bores you?
Repetition.
Okay. And what excites you?
Pictures. So something, if I'm learning, is through pictorial, not too many things on the slides, not too many sentences, more of a story theme that would attract me.
Okay. And so we know that you're trying to learn about marketing, about taxes, about maybe building a business, maybe joining a team as a physician. This is very tactical, maybe delving into strategic areas as well. And, I wonder how much of this knowledge do you think will help you succeed at your goals in life?
I don't know.
It's a hard question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm, so my thinking is you need to learn something in order to apply, right? If you're not ready to even apply, then why learn? So I need to first get ready to apply something before I start learning it. So if I'm ready there, then I'll start learning and I'll apply, no matter what.
That's the way I love to learn as well. Like I need both theory and application. I can learn the ideas, but if it's just by itself, that bores me.
Yes.
The only application of things that I already know, that's no fun either. I've been there, done that. But if you blend both of them, ideas and how to apply them, I love that type of learning. So hopefully, I don't bore you with this and it isn't too.
I might just give them fill if I start my class.
Cool. So in this skill that you're trying to learn, maybe you don't need credibility, but certainly as a physician, you need credibility, right? You need to be licensed to practice as a doctor in Pakistan, in the US, and there are so many things you have to do to train. Long journey. But maybe if you're learning about taxes so that you can minimize how many taxes you pay, or you want to learn about marketing so that you can market yourself and your services that you're coming out with, maybe you don't need the same level of licensing or credibility. You just need to learn enough so that you can do what you want to achieve, right? And so those are the types of questions that you might want to ask yourself. And, I asked about this earlier, but you can think about this as being on a spectrum. Oops, sorry. Let me get back to where I was. Okay. So you can think about this as learning on a spectrum. Maybe it's informal learning, maybe it's formal learning, and maybe it depends on what you're trying to learn, right? Hopefully this is more on the informal side of the spectrum, like we're just trying to have a conversation here about how to learn. But for me, I really love learning some things in a classroom with an instructor who is an expert, and that is formal learning. So when I went to learn about a concept of growth marketing, maybe you've heard of this. That's the practice of understanding your market and the products and services you're building and how to find those markets in the right way in order to grow your business systematically. You might have heard of growth hacking. Growth hacking used to be all these very tactical things, but the field of growth has emerged in the last 10 or so years. People like Uber, Facebook, HubSpot, all of these companies sort of pioneered what the field of growth is. And I had read many articles, and that's sort of informal learning. But when I wanted to learn about it more formally so that I could apply it to a new job that I was at, I actually went to a class called Reforge. And Reforge taught me this in a cohort-based learning setting where I was learning with a lot of people in my same shoes from experts. And they brought guest lecturers, and it was a 6 to 8 week program, depending on which class you took, to learn about growth. I've done a bunch of informal learning as well and just learned on the job, which I'm sure you all are familiar with as well, and that's another great way I like to learn. Now, think to yourself, is this similar to what I know already? Is it, totally out there? Like I have no experience building F1 cars, but maybe I want to build an F1 car. That's going to be totally outside of my expertise and my skills. But maybe I want to learn how to do better user interviews. And I've done many, many user interviews before, but it's sort of very close to the field that I want to learn about next and how to improve a few things. So, it's pretty close to the skill set that I know. Okay. So imagine, I didn't plan this ahead, Sidra, I promise. But if you want to build a financial model of your, personal finances, maybe you go think about all of these factors and, I want to learn a little bit more formally, a little bit more strategically about taxes. And this is totally out there compared to all the other things I've learned as, being a doctor. It is not mission critical. Maybe it's somewhere halfway between nice to have and mission critical. And, maybe I need credibility on this. Maybe I don't, but, maybe it's somewhere in the middle here. So again, I promise I didn't plan this, but this was Ellen's example as well. So the ways you can learn about going, going about learning this subject and building your personal finance experience. You could go back to school. You could change jobs or find a new project at your current job. You could learn from a teacher, a trainer, or a coach. You can take a class on the side like I did with Reforge, either online, through video series, or an email course. And then you can also do what I used to do a lot, read a lot of articles, make up your own curriculum, and learn from a friend. Just talk to his lead. He's got a lot of knowledge, right? Okay. And then how you learn is sort of on this continuum. So you can learn in all of these ways, and you can pick what is the most effective way, whether it's school or self-directed or anything in between. Maybe you pick a few different ways of learning. So hopefully this gives you a new sort of way of thinking about how to learn and how to apply what you want to learn in the new spaces that you're thinking about. So I know we talked about Sidra's example. Does anyone else want to share what they're trying to learn, and maybe we can talk through a couple of different ways of how you like to learn and how you might think about approaching the things that you do want to learn. Maybe I'll take the presenter mode off and come back to seeing all of you. Does anyone want to unmute themselves and tell me what they want to learn?
I have one question regarding the learning stuff.
Yeah.
As like we are in this era, it is a artificial intelligence era, right?
Yeah.
So how we can reach our goals as a simple person? Like if I am a designer, I cannot do everything by myself.
Yeah.
Because last decade, the skills person fight with his colleague or someone, like if he is doing, so I have to do. But right now is a fight against the AI, because AI doing everything. A single person cannot do everything. So how we can survive in this era? So we cannot learn everything, and we are in this age, like it's like we are almost complete our mindset stuff. So so just tell me about this. Like, should we learn everything, or how we compete with the AI? That's my question. Go ahead.
Great question, Said. I'm actually going to take Sarah's question first. Sarah, if you want to unmute yourself and also ask your question, or maybe it was a
Hey Kunal.
Yeah.
My name is Sarah, and I have working as graphic designer or ZJRC.
Mm-hmm.
And my question is, how will I know my learning was successful?
Great question. Okay. Two very great questions. And Zad and Sarah, maybe I'll pair both of your questions and use an example of something that I've been trying to learn recently. Like in my next couple of roles, I actually want to learn about artificial intelligence and how to apply it. So how to apply it to Mercury, how we could make our onboarding team a lot faster and make it really easy to onboard customers, or customer service. How can we make that customer experience really great? And there are a lot of things that AI is doing in a different way. So, one thing that I'm working on, and I'll go back to actually sharing my screen here and give you maybe a little bit of a live demo. So I'm coming back to Figma. Figma is this design tool that I'm sure many of you have heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Just quick show of hands, or if you can unmute yourself. Have you heard of Figma before?
Yes.
See a couple of nods from Zad. Okay. So Figma, basically, it's a platform where you can draw and design software primarily, but a lot of people use it for a lot of different things. Now, I have friends at a company called Diagram, and Diagram actually got bought by Figma. And they built this tool called Magician. Okay? So I'm going to open up Magician for you here. And it's a little bit small, but hopefully you can see this window here. Magician actually can help you generate icons, can help you generate copy, can rename your layers if you're using Figma and you see the layers panel. I have not named any of my layers. It's just all slide 14, 15, 13, blah. It's not very meaningful. And then it can also help you generate images, much like ChatGPT or Midjourney. If you've played with any of these, I'm sure many of you have seen some of those things. So I earlier was working on a hackathon, and we were trying to build an experience for, let me see if I can pull it up here, for patients with dementia. And so we were, working with the team and how we can help caregivers sort of figure out what they would do to improve their loved ones' care at home. And in the U.S., a lot of people will send them to nursing homes or things like that. I know in Pakistan, typically joint families, you'll be having everyone at home, and so there are a lot of people at home who can care for a person who is newly diagnosed with dementia. Huge problem in the world, right? So we were coming up with a bunch of ideas, and we were sketching out a bunch of ideas. This will be probably very familiar to you if you've done any graphic design or if you've done any product design before, sort of sketching out these wireframes, these flows of how things might work. Okay, oops, sorry. So from there, what we did was we decided, okay, let's build a prototype. And I am not a great graphic designer like many of you are. My specialty is more product design. So I decided, okay, let me pop open this plugin from the team at Diagram Magician, and I need to generate some icons very quickly. Like this hackathon was just 48 hours. We had to do some really fast work. And I said, okay, can you help me build an icon for a logo for Sage Health? And Sage, brings that idea of a magician wearing a hat with a magic wand, right? And this would take me hours if I were normally doing things by hand. And I'm not a great graphic designer, like I said, so maybe you all are faster. But magician, just generating this icon, and within a few seconds, you should start to see here that there are a few icons that it's generating for me. And I can give some feedback on these results, or maybe I really like this one. This is kind of clean, good starting point. So I'll copy this into my file, and here I have the whole vector icon that I can go tweak everything. Like maybe I don't love these stars, so I'm going to go select these stars, and I'm going to delete this. And then, I'm going to replace that with something else, whatever I want, right? So this is some of like the new tooling that I'm using to move so much faster as a product designer. And, I'll pop open Magic Copy. Maybe I'm working on the website and generate the headline copy for Sage Health, a company that helps caregivers keep their loved ones at home longer by building smart environments at home. Okay? And I'll say right. Okay? And we'll see what it comes up with. Comes up with a few suggestions. Okay, interesting. These are a little bit long, but definitely shorter than my prompt. Maybe I'll bring this onto the canvas and I'll start there and maybe get some suggestions later. And you can say, okay, let me get a caregiver taking care of a loved one at home who has dementia. Show them sitting on the couch watching TV. Okay, generate. So, all of these things, I'm like trying to move really fast, and I know the diagram team, so I got access to these tools pretty early as they were building them. And here we go. I have a great picture. Oh, maybe I want one where they're hugging. Not super great from the standpoint of what ChatGPT and all of the mid-journeys of the day can do now. You can see sort of like very fuzzy images, but hey, it's a great starting point. And now I have actually a logo. a headline and a hero image for my website, for my social posts. And I did it all while I was talking to you all, right? And so in this case, how can you stay relevant in AI, which is Zaid's question, and then Sarah's question about how can you know if you've hit your goal about learning or not? In this particular case, my goal was to learn about how to improve caregiver quality and keeping patients at home longer, and how can I do it in the context of this 48-hour hackathon where I am the only designer and I have a few business students and I have one engineer on my team. How can we present our ideas as fast as possible? That was my goal. And how do I know if I succeeded at that goal? Well, I want to see if like the story that we came up with was effective. And so here are all the slides that I'll sort of flip through very quickly, and you can see sort of the problem is huge and the solution that we're working on. Here's our team. Here's a prototype of what we could build, and here are some suggestions of how you might use the service. And you can see we did a bunch of design work all within 48 hours to tell this story and really come up with a great idea and a business model here. And tell the story of how actually one of our teammates, how her mom and her grandpa, who had dementia, how the solution of Sage Health could have helped them, right? And there's our team during the hackathon. So anyways, we ended up winning this hackathon, and we got invited back to another hackathon where we got to compete against other winners, and we came in second place there. And then we got a lot of traction, right? And so it wasn't that AI necessarily was the thing that I wanted to learn. It was actually a means to an end. Like, how can we actually compete and get attention and get support and get other people interested in our idea? And we now have so many mentors and advisors and people who want to see us succeed in the world at solving this problem, because I decided, hey, I'm going to like try and experiment with this AI thing and see if it can actually help me and help me achieve my goals. And so the small goal there was like win this hackathon. But even before that, the goal was, okay, experiment with AI, see what I can do, how can I improve my process as a designer. And the long-term goal is, can we actually help patients take care of their loved ones with dementia? And so you can see there are many goals there, and you can evaluate yourself. And that long-term goal I haven't been successful at yet. But the short-term goal is win the hackathon, get a bunch of people interested in our idea, start to talk to more caregivers because they see that we won at MIT Hacking Medicine, well-renowned institution,
Exactly.
Well-known college, well-known university, and use that as a way to propel our idea forward.
Gotcha.
I only worked on this in my side time. And this actually helped me in my day job, because then I could tell my team, hey, this is what I learned about designing with AI. It might help our team move a lot faster. The thing that might have taken us weeks and a couple of designers can now take maybe a day or a couple of hours at one designer. And so you can learn about how to move faster. So I don't think AI is going to replace our job.
Okay.
But it will help us make us more efficient and help us translate our ideas into execution faster.
Okay.
Hopefully that helps both answer your question, Sarah, and your question, Zaid.
Yes, Kunal, definitely it helps us a lot, because think about the end goals, right? And use AI as a tool. What I've learned from you right now. So we have only 5 more minutes. So if like you will give some ending notes, some major advices regarding AI versus human. So you have 5 more minutes.
Sure. I mean, I have just 1 minute on that.
That's good.
Explore. Be curious. Think about what you want to learn, and then use this framework. Hopefully this framework was helpful, and I will link the article here so that you can go back and read Ellen's full piece, which I found to be very, very informative. I'll link it here in the chat, and Brad, maybe you can share it with everyone on the invite, even if they have to drop or something like that. Use this framework to your advantage in order to, again, like Sarah said, think about your goals, work backwards from there. What do I need to learn? And how can I experiment? And maybe pull a few threads. Like maybe I wasn't intending to learn something, but I came across something. Like Framer now helps build beautiful websites with AI, right? And I know nothing about Framer, but I'm going to go learn. I'm going to spend an afternoon or I'm going to spend an evening in my free time learning about this new technology. So, in that regard, there might be all of these new things that come about. And there are a lot of things that will come up, like diagrams that I found, and I connected with Jordan Singer, one of the founders, as well as Sid Sharma, one of the founding engineers. I'm now really great friends with them because I was really invested in what they were building, and I was giving them feedback on their tooling as they were building. And then you actually build your network in that way because I was curious about this. And then you start, working with people like Zed, and you start expanding the types of work you're doing. And that will unlock so many more doors for you in the future. The number one best way to learn, I think, is reading. If you're not reading a lot, articles, books, all these things, there's so much knowledge trapped in those books and those articles and those podcasts. Think about what you want to learn, how you want to spend your time, and just keep learning. There's no better way to, like Sidra was saying earlier, how to escape this hamster race that we all might feel like we're on, and start to live life the way that you want to live it. And education is a deep core value of me and my family. My grandfather never spared any expense for education. He would order my dad books from London and electronics kits and chemistry kits and all these things and audio equipment. And that's how my dad learned that he wanted to be an electronics engineer, right? So whatever it is that you're curious about, really think through that and maybe use this framework to be intentional about what you want to learn and how you want to live your life and how you want to impact people and help humanity. Because I think that's truly feels great when you can do something like that. So I know we have 2 minutes left. Any other closing questions?
Okay, I think so that be it for this sessions. Okay, just last one. Okay, so most probably Aksar is here. So Aksar, do you have a questions? We have only 1 minute left regarding AI or something.
No? Okay, well, thank you for everyone who joined. Thank you for your questions, for your engagement. It was nice to meet all of you. If you have any other questions, you have my LinkedIn. I'll link it again here.
Yeah, sure.
Feel free to connect. I love it when people, oops, that didn't work. I love it when people have, specific questions for me. And, if you do want to connect on LinkedIn, please write me a note that this is where we met. Otherwise, I get a lot of connection requests, and I don't know half the people who are asking to connect with me. I would prefer if you personalize the message and write a note there, so I know we met here in this session put on by Zed. But pleasure meeting all of you, and I hope to see you again soon. Zed, thank you so much for organizing.
Thank you.